every time I used to go on stage, I mean, I would throw up backstage.
Really?
People know
But you're always on stage.
I was always on stage. I've been to places where I've seen poverty. I've been to places where I've seen people struggling. देखने में बहुत खूबसूरत है लेकिन नौकरी है नहीं, काम मिल नहीं रहा. पूरी दुनिया में जो एक अजाब आया हुआ है. So you know.
Have you ever come across an unsafe situation traveling in Pakistan as a woman?
I love interacting with people from different places.
इंसान एक डिप्रेसिव स्टेट में भी आ सकता है, लेकिन उस डिप्रेसिव स्टेट से निकलने के लिए what worked for you?
Initially, I was like, I should have like every year a seminar on mental health that I should kind of spearhead. Like for me, that entire spiritual trip that I signed up for worked for me. You know, the divorce happened right now, or the accident happened right now. My son's struggling with drug addiction today. I'm going to come in June 2025.
मेंटल हेल्थ एक बहुत अहम मौजू है जिस पे लोग कम बात करते हैं, और जब एक सेलिब्रिटी इस मौजू पे आके बात करे और अपने मेंटल हेल्थ चैलेंजेस के बारे में खुल के आपसे डिस्कशन करे, ये एक बहुत अच्छा मौका होता है कि आप सुने, समझें और सीखें कि आप अपनी मेंटल हेल्थ के लिए क्या कर सकते हैं. और इसी मौजू पे आज मेरे साथ अनूशे अशरफ एक तफसीली गुफ्तगू कर रही हैं. चेक आउट दिस एपिसोड ऑफ डिजिटल्स. Anoushey Ashraf, how are you today?
I'm well, boss. How are you?
काफी अरसे पहले हमने साथ काम किया था, काफी अरसे
मैंने
पहले
काम किया था,
नहीं वो बहुत अरसा पहले था और एक बहुत बिल्कुल ही it's like a past life for me. But it was a good time. We had a good time.
It was. And it was such a good learning curve for all of us. You know, that entire 4-5 years that we were all together.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
It was, I think, the first time you did a morning show.
First time I did a morning show. First time I did a Ramzan transmission.
Yeah.
And spoke to people who I don't interact with on a regular basis. But so it was good exposure. You know, learning how to communicate with people. And Maulanas.
Yeah.
and then, of course, all kinds of people on that show. But it was interesting. It was a good environment.
Yeah.
I had a nice team, and I think we had a.
And I remember telling my team that you were the most patient celebrity I'd worked with.
Really?
Yes.
And I'm actually quite impatient.
मुझे याद है कि कोई भी गाड़ी चली जाती थी, you never used to complain. मुझे ऑफिस से कोई ना कोई गाड़ी आगे पीछे होती थी, कोई भी जाती थी, I was like, how did she not complain? किसी और के पास कुछ चला जाए तो वो तो ज़मीन आसमान टूट के खुल जाए. But you were always very patient.
घर जाना. बस किसी चीज़ में भी भेज दो.
But you know what for me is amazing कि हर चीज़ कर लिया है. VJ भी किया है, होस्टिंग भी की है, MC भी किया है, थोड़ी बहुत एक्टिंग भी की थी, लेकिन जो चीज़ सबसे ज़्यादा की है वो है ट्रैवल. 51 countries.
Yes.
ये ट्रैवल का शौक कहाँ से आया?
अब्बा, my father, who you know as well.
Yes.
Adventurous.
वो तो है बिल्कुल, अभी भी adventurous है.
He's the kind of person who had no qualms about pulling us out of school so we could just take a road trip. My mother was like the more responsible one. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, this too is an education, you know? And so yeah, he was one of those people who was always like, when adventure like is around the corner, so grab that opportunity, don't let it go. So we'd taken road trips bachpan se. The weekends we would spend at the beach always, पानी के अंदर, कभी diving कर रहे हैं, कभी swimming कर रहे हैं, सुबह जा रहे हैं to see the sunrise, do a little bit of a dip, fishing. We used to fish. The entire family used to go out fishing, you know, including the cousins, wives.
अम्मी परेशान नहीं होती थी?
अम्मी भी साथ होती थी बहुत दफ़ा. You know, my father's still very active, mashallah, but like cricket match हो रहा है तो वहाँ चलो, कोई festival हो रहा है तो he'd take all the kids, he'd take the responsibility of picking up everybody's children. And I guess that kind of instilled a sense of adventure in all of us. Like all our sisters, brothers, you know, extended family. We were all very much into travel, cars, exploring, adventure. So I guess it really did come in from my father. But then it became like a mission also that I was going to see places.
Why was it a mission?
I know, I was trying to just beat myself to it. कि मैं
कितने कर लेंगे?
कितने करूँगी? हाँ, या फिर सब. You know, there was a project I had in mind once. But obviously वो हालात कभी ठीक होके देते नहीं थे कि I was like मैं you know कुछ किसी को propose करूँ. I wanted to be the first Pakistani woman to see every country in the world.
कितने हैं total?
122.
122. I think it was like
123, 124, 120 के ऊपर है. All countries.
180 I thought. 170.
180?
Yeah, I thought it's
180 बट
छोटे
वो
मोटे सब
पोर्टोरिको मिला
मिला
के
हाँ
और उसको मिला के
exactly
जो अमेरिका का है या बट आई डोंट थिंक 180 है
नहीं we'll find out so let's say
can't be way off by 50 how many countries are there in the world hey Siri
at least we've included Siri. This is the first time we're including Siri
how many
into our
countries are there in
podcast
the world he's saying 195
see I told you it's above 180
Allah so there you go
so you're at 51
yeah I'm way back
नहीं ठीक है that's not bad 50 is a pretty good start अभी भी you're young so
the
time तो है
problem is कि you go off to Dubai more than once, London, America. You know, every time I'm like, guys, let's go somewhere new. But you have to end up going to
Senegal, Eritrea,
Yeah.
you know, West Congo,
Latvia.
Latvia,
I really want to go to
Belarus जाना पड़ेगा.
Belarus.
You know, इस तरह के मुल्क तो ढूंढने पड़ेंगे. But ये जो 50
Trinidad and Tobago
चले जाएं. But ये जो 51 किए हैं, मुझे so one of the things that I notice हमारे मुल्क में कि जब मौका मिलता है किसी को बाहर ट्रैवल करने का the first thing they do is your standard Dubai. London, Bangkok, इस्तांबुल ठीक है अब इसकी एक वजह ये भी हो सकती है कि वीज़ाज आर अ लिटिल इजियर फॉर सर्टेन प्लेसेस
और फिर लंदन में दुबई में सबके कोई ना कोई मेरी अम्मा है मेरे मामू के भाई हैं मेरे स्कूल की दोस्त वहाँ रहती है तो
बट उसका सवाल ये बनता है कि आप मुल्क छोड़ के जा रहे हैं आप मुल्क छोड़ के अपने मुल्क के एक छोटे उसमें you know community में क्यों जा रहे हैं why not go see the world right
I agree
so when you travel and you travel to all sorts of places
yes
what is the one thing that really sort of moves you or is has an impact on you when you travel to new places
I love interacting with people from different places I just get really inspired by every country's food the language, the way they have their infrastructure going, you know, and I think it's been like the best sort of teacher for me. I've learned so much because of my travels. And not, like you said, Dubai ho gaya, ya England ho gaya, ya Istanbul ho gaya. But beyond that, ऐसी jagahein, ऐसी communities, I generally like taking time off and renting a car. So I can get out of the big cities and travel by road instead of taking a flight. कि कहीं गाँव में रुक के रात गुजार लिया. We did that in Spain. You know, I took like a month off in Spain, a month off in Portugal. So we could just go by car from village to village and we had no itinerary. It was just me and a girlfriend and we decided to just stay where we felt like we wanted to stay. And we'd move where we felt like, you know, we didn't want to stay. So all that, I think for me at least, gives me a sense of adventure and fulfillment. Maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea, so I wouldn't recommend it. But I would certainly say that, you know, if you want to learn more about the world, get out and travel.
And how has that changed your perspective on the place you live? ये सब सीख के, you've seen so much, हर तरह के मुल्क, हर तरह की cuisine, हर तरह के cultures, हर तरह की languages. तो ये knowledge के साथ, how does it change the way you look at your own country and your own people?
It's a good question, but it's pretty loaded. Actually, it's made living in Pakistan a little easier, believe it or not. Considering that I've been to some really nice countries and very nice places where I'm just like, you know, Pakistan bhi aisa hota to kitna maza aata. But then I've been to places where I've seen poverty. I've been to places where I've seen people struggling. You know, I've spoken to friends who are sitting in Mykonos and they say things like, देखने में बहुत खूबसूरत है लेकिन नौकरी है नहीं, काम मिल नहीं रहा, पूरी दुनिया में जो एक अजाब आया हुआ है, इस वक्त, you know, एक क्राइसिस में चल रहे हैं, you know, friends sitting in England are like, हम तो recession में चले गए, we can't afford anything anymore. So I'm just trying to be grateful, count my blessings and go like, ठीक है मैं पाकिस्तान में रहती हूँ, और हालात ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा बुरे हैं. लेकिन मैं दुनिया में जहाँ भी हूँ I'm going to choose to live in with a positive mindset, right? And I will try and just convince myself that whether I was in Sri Lanka, whether my family migrated from Bangladesh, previously from Iran, I mean, there's certain people who are happy in this world and there's certain people who are just unhappy. So my travels taught me one thing, that sure, standard of high low ho sakta hai, but happiness is really very much independent of a lot of things.
Right.
Sure, there's so much more stress here. You feel very insecure sometimes. You know, safety is an issue. Women and safety is a big issue. But overall, I've seen people miserable in a lot of places in the world. And it's opened my eyes in a very wholesome way कि दुनिया में जहाँ अच्छा भी हो रहा है वहाँ पे बहुत बुरा भी होता है लोगों के साथ, और कोई लोग अच्छी जगहों में बैठे हैं लेकिन उनकी ज़िंदगी बहुत बुरी है इस वक्त. And that gives me some kind of consolation because when I come back, मेरे दोस्त यहाँ पे हैं, मेरी फैमिली यहाँ पे है, मेरे कुत्ते यहाँ पे हैं, मेरा काम यहाँ पे, मेरा नाम यहाँ पे है. तो I try and hang on to those things. And if I can get out once every 3-4 months, which I do, then I stay sane. फिर मुझे लगता है कि ठीक है मैं यहाँ ही गुजार लूँगी, you know. It's better than maybe living in Dubai but being hand to mouth, for instance, maybe. You know, so I give myself that kind of consolation, and I've learned that from the world, that it can be good for many people and can be bad wherever you are.
And how is traveling in Pakistan different? मतलब क्योंकि you've traveled a lot within Pakistan also. You've seen.
I'm doing a travel show now.
And you're doing a travel show.
I am.
So you're I would say probably one of the most traveled women within Pakistan that I've come across. I'm sure और भी होंगे लेकिन showbiz के अंदर सबसे ज़्यादा तो I would say it's you.
I would like to take the credit there.
जो पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो travel है to the northern areas, to the beaches, to the coast, to let's say within Balochistan, within Punjab, in सब को देख के is there a comparison in your assessment of the world and of Pakistan and its people?
100%. I mean, Pakistan and its people, I genuinely feel that because I'm from Pakistan, I feel like people are more receptive in the sense, even though they're very hospitable to everybody. But because I can speak my own language, because I feel like, हाँ मैं एक phone call करती हूँ, you know. I mean, I'm not trying to say कि I'm using influence where I go, but
you feel at home.
किसी local को जानती हूँ, उनकी ज़बान बोल लेती हूँ, मुझे पाकिस्तान का रहन सहन पता है, तो you know कहीं फंस भी जाओ तो हम भाई साहब help कर देंगे. And I always try and go with that mindset कि अच्छा होगा. And I've only met good people, चाहे वो बलूचिस्तान में हो, चाहे वो अफगानिस्तान के border पे हो, चाहे वो ईरान के border पे हो. You know, we've done a road trip from the border of Iran to the border of Afghanistan.
Wow, okay.
Gone through Punjab, all of that, southern Punjab, जहाँ पे हालात बुरे भी हैं, अच्छे भी नहीं हैं. You know, you just dress a little appropriately. हर जगह का अपना एक norms होती है, एक चीज़ होती है. उसको थोड़ा सा उसके बारे में अगर आप mindful हो, तो you can manage to travel and maneuver around. I mean, I've been robbed in Spain. I've been robbed in Thailand. You know, somebody tried to run away with my bag in Istanbul. So.
And in Pakistan?
Pakistan, I have never been robbed.
While
but
traveling?
I've been stared at. And, you know, in Faisalabad, I was just like, there were these boys who were just misbehaving because 3-4 of us girls were like in a pair of jeans and stuff. But when you travel, you take it in your stride instead of getting very outwardly offended by it. Of course, you know, you're like, man, this is just disgusting. This behavior is disgusting. But is it going to stop me from exploring the goodness around me? Possibly not, you know. And I will make sure I reprimand them there and then. In Pakistan, somehow I feel very much like, badtameezi mat karo. I've told these boys, aise nahi baat karte. And they've been like, you know. And my father thinks that's very gutsy of me, but I keep telling them that 9 times out of 10 ko sharam aa jati hai ya thoda sa. So bahar you feel like I can't be like 1 minute kya ho raha hai, you know. You
यहाँ कर सकते हैं. आपका मुल्क है इसलिए कर सकते हैं.
आपका मुल्क है, आप कर सकते हैं. I'm sure if I even go out of line in, say, the Middle East in my car and hit somebody, I'd be more worried than I would be in Pakistan, for instance. कि यार मैं वो एक्सीडेंट हो गया, you know, ये मेरा लाइसेंस रिवोक हो जाएगा, ये वो यहाँ पे हम लाइक ठीक है मैं कर लूँगी. अपने लोग हैं, अपनी ज़बान में बात करूँगी, इनको भाई बुलाऊँगी, भाई साहब मेरी मदद कर दें, मैं यहाँ नहीं बैठ सकती, यहाँ नहीं खड़ी हो सकती. So they can't manhandle me so much unless I come into a targeted sort of situation. By and large, I'm okay traveling in Pakistan.
So you feel safe as a woman traveling in Pakistan?
I do. But
have you ever come across an unsafe situation traveling in Pakistan as a woman or as a group?
I went into this town of Chilas once when I was much younger without knowing that what I'm doing. And रात में हम खाना खाने वहाँ मैं बाहर निकल गई thinking now we're in the mountains. So the north is really nice. I'm in my jeans and I go out and I see these men with like kajal in their eyes and they have these pagadis and dadis and they're just like. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting in the dhaba and I'm like, dal le aayega, please. And there's my girlfriend sitting across me. And all of a sudden, we're like, we thought North is safe. Ye itna stare kyun kar rahe? Then we found out that Chilas is completely like a different mindset. You know, it's not like Hunza Gilgit Baltistan. It's a conservative place. It's not so open to women. So didn't realize. So when I called up the guy we were traveling with, he's like, "Where are you guys?" I was like, "Hum to aage wo restaurant chale gaye." They're like, "We'll come right now." So that's the only time I felt a little unsafe. But by and large, I found a lot of respect. Conservativeness, yes, 100% conservative हैं लोग. बट इज्जत भी देते हैं.
एक्सेप्टिंग है कि आप मतलब आप एक शहर में पली बड़ी औरत उनके इलाके में आ रहे हैं जहाँ पे वो कंजर्वेटिव माइंडसेट के साथ रह रहे हैं.
मुझे कहते हुए बहुत दुख होता है, लेकिन ये चीज़ें मुझे पंजाब में ज़्यादा मिलती हैं और लोगों को लगता है कि शायद नॉर्थ में होता होगा या बलूचिस्तान में होता होगा. लेकिन बलूचिस्तान में नॉर्थ में लोग रिलीजियस हैं, लेकिन उनमें एक उनका माइंडसेट बहुत ही हॉस्पिटैलिटी और रिस्पेक्ट. आप हमारी बहन हैं, यू नो, लाइक एवरीबडी इज लाइक आप हमारे मेहमान हैं, आप क्या खाएंगे, आप क्या पियेंगे. आई ऑलवेज फेल्ट प्रोटेक्टेड इन द नॉर्थ, इवन इफ इट वाज आउट ऑफ द हुंजा जीबी एरिया जहाँ पे प्राइमरीली यू नो खानीज या स्माइलीज होते हैं. व्हेन यू गो इनटू सवात, व्हेन यू गो इनटू पेशावर आल्सो. Southern Punjab, I got more catcalled and like men misbehaving and you know.
And this is Bahawalpur, Multan.
Yes, थोड़ा सा फैसलाबाद. फैसलाबाद जबकि southern नहीं है, but सियालकोट, you know, places like that जहाँ पे आज भी आप देखते हैं तो I think वहाँ पे ज़्यादा एक rape culture या लिंचिंग वगैरह जो होती है या ब्लास्फेमी केसेस होते हैं वहाँ पे ज़्यादा. सो वहाँ पे माइंडसेट ज़्यादा एग्रीवेटेड उस किस्म से है. वहाँ पे ज़्यादा कंजर्वेटिव होगा, लेकिन यहाँ पे ज़्यादा करप्ट है आई थिंक.
तो वो नॉर्दर्न एरियाज बलूचिस्तान में कंजर्वेटिव बट विद रिस्पेक्ट, हॉस्पिटैलिटी.
So I'll call them religious, but I won't call them radicalized. There you go. So I'll call them religious.
लेकिन सदर्न पंजाब के अंदर it's more radicalized.
I would think so.
Less religious
because
less respect.
They're less spiritually or less wholesome like that, but they Islam ke naam pe they do a lot of things that are terrifying.
What do you think is the reason for that?
I think maybe like unlimited amount of madrasas that go unchecked, and the clerics that sit there who have no kind of authority to be sitting in a position where they sit on a pulpit and they make tall claims and there's no check and balance, and there's a lot of money that's gone into that sector, you know, and it's kind of now you're seeing the kind of repercussions, and it's happening a lot and seeping into northern Sindh as well, from what we've noticed.
Which didn't have it before.
And people in Sindh are now worried. आपने देखा है वो जो अभी सिंध में जो आपके लहूटी मेलों वाले सैफ समेजो, I don't know if you're aware, but क्योंकि वहाँ पे एक डॉक्टर को एक पुलिस एनकाउंटर में मारा गया था.
वो मैंने देखा था बिल्कुल.
So उनके लिए सिंध के लोग बाहर आए कि यार ये हमारे लिए अजीब है, because you know we wanted it a fair trial to see if it was actually a blasphemy case or not.
जो blasphemy case में पुलिस कस्टडी के अंदर जो मारा गया था. जी.
So वो नॉर्दर्न सिंध में उसका थोड़ा सा एक इशू आ गया है, and they came out on the streets for protesting against the radicalization of Sindh, right? So and that is a problem now that's seeping in. So it's and that's the way it is. It's coming down from, I would say, from Punjab. As much as I'm scared to see this on the podcast, but southern Punjab, you know.
So how do you change a mindset like this? I know, and I ask you this because, you know, you create a lot of content. You're one of the few people. I still remember, you know, I don't know if you remember, I still remember the day you got on Instagram. It was at HTV.
Yes, possibly.
And you're like, listen, I think I want to join the social media thing. How do I join this?
And now I'm like Instagram queen.
You're the queen, right? And so, but one of the things that really stood out for me is, you know, the content you create on Instagram is bold in that you are very comfortable talking about mental health, emotional health, personal well-being, self-love, and all of these things, right? And this is content जो सारे लोग खुल के बात नहीं करते हैं, especially वो लोग जो let's say showbiz में हैं जिनका नाम है, right? You've done that. So when I ask you कि ये जो mindset है इसको change करने के लिए क्या करना चाहिए? Is it by creating content from people who have influence? Are there other ways? What would be a good way to shift mindset ताकि एक moderate society create की जाए?
I think social media के advent की वजह से Instagram वगैरह, we've now seen a lot of people talk about mental health issues. Celebrities from across the border who are pretty influential in Pakistan as well. And of course, Hollywood celebrities, musicians, singers, they've all at some point spoken about how they're creatively sound, but there's this angst and this depressive sort of streak in them, and it happens. There's a lot of abuse of drugs, and lifestyle is not correct. Whatever triggers it. So I think that kind of didn't encourage me, but I genuinely. So the first time I went to see a doctor for my mental health, I went to a psychiatrist. Like a friend of mine was like, cover your face, you're a celebrity. And I was like, why should I cover my face? I'm going to a doctor. They're like, वो देखे नहीं कि तुम psychiatrist के पास जा रही हो. So it kind of really made me think about, like, why is it so badnaam? It's not like I'm going in for like, I don't know, like, there could be a million other things which are worse. I'm just struggling with my mental health at this point. I'm getting anxious. I feel shaky. My stomach's out. I'm not sleeping well. I'm worried all the time. Sometimes I'm short of breath. How's this embarrassing? It's a very human sort of...
It's a human condition.
Human condition.
बिल्कुल ऐसे ही है.
And when I started telling people that my jaw gets locked or my eyes are starting to twitch because of anxiety, 8 out of 10 people are like, मैंने तो अपने शौहर को भी नहीं बताया लेकिन मुझे भी होता है.
अच्छा, really?
One lady in the US told me that she's been on medication for 7 years and her husband doesn't know.
Wow.
These people are staying in the New York area. Like, so I mean, what can I say when it comes to taboo? Because some people will always think it's bad to talk about it. हम वैसी बदनाम है, मीडिया में काम करते हैं, फाश हमने फैलाई हुई है, तो मजीद फैला देते हैं मेंटल हेल्थ के बारे में बात करते हैं.
नहीं, तो जब से बात करना शुरू किया है इस टॉपिक पे, तो and you're pretty open about the content you create. How have people reacted to it? What are some of the interesting things that came your way that you feel कि मैंने इनकी ज़िंदगी में कुछ एक positive influence create किया?
जब मैंने बात करना शुरू की कि मुझे डिप्रेशन है, मुझे एंग्जाइटी बहुत होती है, मुझे दवाइयाँ लेनी पड़ी at some point, या मैंने थेरेपिस्ट को देखा, my inbox was flooded. Instagram, that just gave me like a platform to communicate with people outside the realm of TV channels and stuff where I was dependent, where I had to say, check myself कि क्या बोल रही हो, कि क्या censor होगा. It was just some place where I could speak to people. And when I started speaking about these things, I remember doing a series on my Instagram talking about, if you have depression, tell me your story, and I will keep your name ambiguous. I will kind of just
blur it out.
Literally blur it out of the marker on my phone, and I will put out your story out there because I want people to know how many people are struggling. And then Vakant se lekar, Rahim Yar Khan se lekar, like across Pakistan, Australia, Oman, वहाँ जहाँ भी कोई पाकिस्तानीज़, इंडियंस वगैरह बैठे हैं, जिनकी जितनी भी रीच है हमारी, इतने लोगों ने मुझे मैसेज किया, फिर बताया अबाउट देयर अब्यूज़. किसी के बाप ने उसको अब्यूज़ किया था, किसी के भाई ने उसको रेप किया था, किसी की अम्मा जो हैं वो इमोशनली अब्यूसिव थी. There were all kinds of horror stories and people were like depressed. So then I decided that I'm going to get a list of doctors या clinic के numbers. That, then there was Ahang, there's Taskeen. There are a few people who provide free therapy. They also provide free therapy over the phone. So you can just call and speak, even if you're sitting, say, in the mountains, in KPK, you can have access to a therapist in Karachi.
Right.
Shared all those on my social media. People were writing to me with strange things like, I've been suicidal for a year. That's when I started panicking because I was like, these people need urgent help. And so I did my bit of what I could do. And I wanted to do more, but I also think I have low level, I shouldn't be just claiming that I have any condition, but मुझे ADHD issue. Like I've been so मैं करने की कोशिश करती हूँ, but I don't follow through with anything, Initially I was like, I should have like every year a seminar on mental health that I should kind of spearhead, or do it with somebody like Taskeen or something, and make it something where people can do group therapies, where people can talk about their addiction issues and understand that it's a very human condition again. but I haven't been able to get around it.
Are people open enough to have that conversation? Do you think कि वो shift आया है because of social media? लोग अब बोलने लगे हैं, अपने बारे में share करने लगे हैं.
So I did try and do one little thing on Mental Health Month like 2-3 years ago. And I did have a boy, a guest, who happened to be easy speaking about his problem with addiction and heroin and
Wow.
how he's recovered. Padha likha ladka. He's got a good job now. He spoke about it. And we actually had sold tickets because we wanted to just make sure that we cover enough to organize this event in that place. And it was full. I mean, it was just a capacity of 70 people, maybe a little less, 60, 70, but it was full. So people came to hear. People were sitting in the corners and hearing. There were ladies who were just sitting and hearing because they wanted to understand what's going on. Somebody wanted to understand कि मेरे बच्चे के साथ भी यही हो रहा है. So we made a little poster and we said, he's going to be my guest. He's going to talk about his issues. I will talk about my issues. And there'll be a couple of doctors on the panel as well. And it, like I said again, it was full. We were so pleasantly surprised to see those people. But having said that, we didn't follow through with it again. Again, I'm organizing, getting the thing together, and मुझे वक्त नहीं मिला.
Are these NGOs and organizations, do you think, doing a good job in terms of how they're tackling mental health issues? इनके पास तो funding वगैरह भी आती है बाहर से.
आती है, हाँ आती होगी.
But मतलब, do you think they're being effective?
के साथ मैंने 2-3 साल से काम किया है. They're good. I think they're good. And they always keep approaching me to do little things, make little videos, like every mental health day or anxiety day or addiction or something or the other they're tackling and they're trying to speak about. And they're doctors who are, teaching people. They're doing their seminars. So I do know that there's a need for it. So even if they're not being able to help everybody, I'm sure they're getting across to at least 20% of the people who reach out to them, which in itself is like a good thing.
Right.
I mean, having said that, I also feel like everybody's like, हाँ मैं therapy कर रही हूँ, मैं therapist बन रही हूँ, and then you sit with them and you're like,
हाँ ये भी एक और ट्रेंड मैंने देखा है कि मतलब एकदम से सब जो कोई NLP बन गया है,
सब लाइफ कोच बने हुए हैं,
सब लाइफ कोच. मतलब what have you achieved or done in your life that makes you able to coach someone else? ये मुझे नहीं समझ आया है. And I think I hold the organizations a little accountable कि यार, how are you giving out?
So they're giving away like 1,000 sort of licenses a year. It's and you.
अब जैसे वो heroin addiction वाला लड़का है, I would make him a life coach.
Yes.
The fact that he went through something major and then came out of it, he can coach people.
But I'll tell you something. Everybody feels like they've dealt with something emotionally, right? Which is fine. But does that make them equipped to help others is something else altogether. Because even most therapists have therapists.
I've played basketball. That doesn't make me a basketball coach.
Exactly.
You know?
And my accounting teacher was horrible. I just like to say it here, even though he was like a master's from like Duke or something, but he was just not a teacher.
Yeah, I'm sure he was a great accountant.
He was a great accountant, but he was a terrible teacher.
Yeah.
And that's why, Mom, I didn't do well at accounting. So yeah. So having said that, I mean, they're just giving away these licenses, which is not the best thing to do.
So then, if someone was to select, I mean, let's say there are people looking out. They've had the courage कि यार चलो मैं एक life coach ढूंढता हूँ, एक therapist ढूंढता हूँ, एक trainer, whatever it is. So how do you think they should identify the right person to go to? Because I'm sure you've had your journey with this as well.
You go shopping.
You actually go shopping for this?
Yeah, you go shopping. Like
3-4 लोगों से जाके मिले.
You sit with 2, you sit with 3. And you sit with people till you feel like, I feel like this person is maybe be able to help me.
And maybe be able to help me की criteria क्या होनी चाहिए? क्या I like them, they sound like a nice person, या उनका कोई methodology होनी चाहिए?
There was a lady who was in hijab, and I felt like maybe I can't talk to her about everything. So awful of me, because again I'm looking at somebody and judging, but I also felt like I wanted to not be judged. And I felt like I could have been judged and this was my own issue. So I had to go shopping again. I'm nothing against her. I'm sure she's fantastic, And there's somebody who told me, yaar, maine tunse har cheez ke bare mein baat ki thi, My friend is gay and he's her this thing. She's, but I was like, theek hai. But, So then there was another one who, jinka office thi, like, unki lights itni bright thi that my eyes literally, like, I know he's
so
like,
nothing to do with the modality.
No, but even speaking, there was one which was horrible. Like, there was a lady, and I don't want to say this, But it was not in Karachi. It was in another town. I'd moved away for a little while, saying maybe I'll get some fresh air and re-evaluate my life. And, wahan pe it was a little worse because I was not doing too well mentally. And her solution to everything was, chalo shopping chalte hain. Thinking, if Anoushay goes out and puts on some lipstick,
she'll feel better.
And I was like, no. So I had to go around till I came across one individual, a man. Maybe I was easier talking with somebody from the opposite sex. Or then there was this lady eventually. And she was amazing. Still is amazing. But I don't really go anymore because I think I'm in a good space now. But at that time, so you have to connect. You have to connect now.
So you have to connect. You have to feel कि इनका कोई structure, process है, कोई outcome होना चाहिए कि भाई I'm going to make progress over a certain number of weeks. और एक और चीज़ है जो लोग सोचते हैं कि यार एक दफ़ा हम जाना शुरू करके I'll have to go forever. I think this is, a misconception because typically
it's expensive for private. This thing, I feel like it could have been more affordable. And then जो अच्छे therapists आपको लगते होंगे वो कहते हैं कि अच्छा अभी क्या है October 22nd come like June 2025 you don't have dates before then. You're like, I'm really struggling right now. The divorce happened right now, or the accident happened right now, my son's struggling with drug addiction today, I'm going to come in June 2025. So that's a little unfair. And then you get into the hands of people who maybe then those hundreds that are hanging around say, yeah, we are also therapists. So they're different kind of things for everybody, and then they're therapists, there's a psychologist, there is a
psychologist, psychiatrist,
psychotherapist,
neuro-linguistic programming, something.
Pick and choose.
Then there's Reiki.
Then there's Reiki.
Energy healing.
My problem was this. I went to my doctor, the psychiatrist, and I was like, why don't you give therapy? दवाई आप दे रहे हैं, therapy वो कर रहा है. I was like, आप लोग भी खुद disconnected हैं. He's like, अच्छा, what did your therapist say? I was like, if you were my therapist, you would have known I have to repeat everything and then balance my, I was like, you're like completely disconnected from one another. And then he was like, I think it's your gut also. So I went to the gastroenterologist who was like, I don't think it's your gut, maybe it's the hormones. So I went to the gynecologist. This is my story. I went to the gynecologist, and at some point I just went to my GP and I was like, you know how much I spent in terms of money. B, when you're depressed or anxious, it takes a lot of effort to get an appointment, get to the doctor, feel motivated to help yourself. ऊपर से
आप इतने सारे लोग
आपको कह रहे हैं हाँ और घूम फिर के एक्सरसाइज कर लो. I was like, wow, like is this the solution? It was tough for me. That was a very difficult case also.
So what do you think anyone going through depression, what do you think is the best way to snap out of that mindset? And it's not कि यार एक mindset मैंने अपने आप पे इनकर की हुई है. Situationally इंसान एक depressive state में भी आ सकता है. लेकिन उस depressive state से निकलने के लिए what worked for you?
Snap out तो I don't think
नहीं
you
हो
can
सकता.
snap out.
ठीक है.
Because people suggest that. बाहर चलो, shopping चलो.
वो snap out का एक
हाँ. चलो आजकल party पे चलते हैं, you just like you're unable to even take a shower on certain days. So you're like, नहीं, party doesn't make any sense. You can't snap out. But you can make small changes very slowly and gradually. So for me, this happened after Health TV when I started feeling really sick. I was at dawn at that time. And I'd just gotten out of a terrible relationship and I was really stressed with my mother's health. I was stressed with, my father was going through some financial issues at that time. My own relationship was going downhill, I think. And there was a culmination of childhood trauma and stuff, which was just adding up. And then I had my eventual, I can't do this anymore. So I had to change a few things. I had to quit the morning show. Imagine. Big steps.
You did that for such a long time.
I did it. And then I went off to the US where I just focused on better sleep, diet, just spending time in bed, asking myself what is going to change. I started seeing a doctor. Thankfully, I had the resources to hire a doctor, get on medicines, start gentle exercises. I just used to go to the park in the evening and I used to feel exhausted. And slowly, gradually, it was a culmination of a million things, like better sleep, a change of environment. I moved out into my own apartment. It was a little bit of spirituality. I started being more mindful about my namaz and my fasting, and it really helped to just get on the prayer mat, cry, and speak to God, sort of situation. So it helped me, you know. Then eliminating a few people from my life.
Really?
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot, and it sounds really ridiculous, but they were just energies that would trigger my. It would trigger my anxiety. Could not help it, and I had to tell those people. I was like, when I'm around you, I get very nervous and stressed, so I can't be in this
So
situation.
you had to proactively cut people out.
Proactively.
In सब चीज़ों में से, was that the hardest?
Huh?
Well, in all of the things that you've listed, cutting the people out must have been the hardest.
Yeah, it was, but
आदत हो जाती है ना लोगों की, यार वो हैं तो हैं अब.
दूसरे लोग आ जाते हैं. And I think that's when therapy helps, because it
दूसरे
helps
लोग
you-
आने का क्या मतलब?
मतलब, say you're my best friend,
ठीक है.
and it's a very, very emotionally heavy relationship for me. You're always complaining, or you're always sort of, it's heavy. It's heavy, heavy, heavy. And you're like, let's smoke, let's drink, or let's constantly. And I'm like, okay, listen, Faizan, I'm going to
Take a step
try
back
and
from
take a
this.
step back from this. And because, I just feel like it's taking too much out of me. And right now I'm already really emotionally and mentally spent. And once I take my space from Faizan, and I'm doing my therapy, I was doing my exercises, I was doing my art and stuff, I joined a book club. And I happened to meet, Asad there instead of Faizan. And Asad and I were like, hey man, yeah, And the minute I made space, that I let go of 2-3 of these people, I made space to hang out with other people. I had time all of a sudden. I was like, oh crap, I don't have those friends anymore. Those 2-3 people who were constantly there. I was like, so I joined a cycling club.
Really?
I joined a book club because I didn't want to do parties all night. I couldn't. So I was like, din ke baad kya hote hain activities. So I found some really fun people here and there doing some really ajeebo-ghareeb cheezein, like कोई गाड़ी बनवा रहे हैं, चला रहे हैं, ठोक रहे हैं, अमल से दोस्ती हो गई बहुत ज़्यादा.
That's true.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have become good friends with these people had I not. You can only have 4 or 5 people in your life. The ones that are closest to you, I realized that they have to be quality ke log.
And you are the sum of those people, ना? मतलब वो यही कहता है ना कि
You are the sum of those people.
क्योंकि आप, if you are with a certain type, you can tell a person by the friends they keep. वो कहता है ना,
100%.
वो एक phrase है.
100%.
So that means कि जो
Birds of a feather जो कहते हैं.
birds of a feather, you can tell a man by the company he keeps.
Yeah.
So when you change the company you keep, that means you became a different person.
I did. 100%. 100%. And I changed the company, and I kind of understood later that I didn't miss it. I always had the door open. I was like, yeah, I love this and everything, but I can't handle it at the moment. And when I'm ready, I'll come back to it. But I never got ready in the sense, meaning today I meet those people. It's good, it's nice. But that's all it is, which is amazing because I don't have to indulge any further. And it's easier said than done.
How did they take it?
One of them not too well. The other one I'm okay with now. So, and I think he also kind of understood at some point. So they're men and women. A lot of people think it's just women and women who are like, I can't be friends with you, she's jealous and she wouldn't. No, it was like 3-4 people, and then a group, a lifestyle that I had to change. Because again, I started questioning myself. I was like, when I'm sitting around these people, the conversations that we're having, you and I were just talking about this, okay, what are the conversations you have in your daily life? Like unworthy conversations. Pointless.
No progress.
No progress, and you're just complaining about an ex, or you're just like talking about somebody else and their marriage and their children and how, this one was cheating on that one. And after a little while, or somebody who's constantly running down their own friends to you, and you're just like, what kind of friend is this friend?
And if they're doing it to them, मेरे साथ क्या कर रहे होंगे?
और ये ऐसा हो चुका है. I had a couple of people around me who used to talk such terrible things about their friends, and the next day Instagram pe picture, at their birthday party, and they're having the time of their lives. And I started losing respect for such people. It happened very organically in that sense. Not because I was hurt by them. I was just like, ये मेरे standards हैं. ये हैं मेरे दोस्त जिनके ये values हैं. और फिर मुश्किल था ढूंढना. उन लोगों को जिनकी वैल्यूज आपके साथ मिलती हों. I went to Iraq, I went for Umrah, I met that one Sufi group which I love now, and I indulge with them on the weekends. Then I met, like I said, through some cycling friends. Then I met some artists. I hung out with some musicians, and I was like, wow, I never really got out of that zone to ever look around and have a conversation and go like, you and I get coffee. And when I did, I had a great time. I was like, हाँ ये बेहतर है शायद थोड़ा सा.
लेकिन इसमें जो मुझे जो सबसे पहले जो चीज़ नज़र आई is what you said is the first thing you did is you removed yourself from the existing situation. मतलब in your case you went to the US. ठीक है, जो भी whatever your US equivalent is, मतलब अगर आप अपने existing situation से हटाएं.
मैं इस्लामाबाद भी गई थी.
इस्लामाबाद भी.
मैं 4 महीने के लिए इस्लामाबाद में थी. I'd gotten a little place and I was very happy. या कुत्ता ले गई, वॉक पे जा रही थी, 1-2 लोगों को जानती थी, तो अगर ज़्यादा लोनलीनेस हो रही थी तो आई यूज्ड टू कॉल देम अप डिनर के लिए वो. बट आई हैड माय टीवी, आई हैड माय प्रेयर रूम, योगा रूम, मेडिटेशन रूम, व्हाटएवर यू वांट टू कॉल इट. लाइक इट वाज वन ऑफ दोस sacred spaces. I was writing, I was reading, I was exercising, and then I was in nature. So I was like, I'm not going to be invited to any place. I won't have to show up to any place. I won't have to put up a front because I'm getting exhausted with.
And so by pulling yourself out and then slowing down, you had time to really think about what is important for you.
Yes. And that's where, like I said again, therapy helps. I think.
And then therapy gives you the tools to be able to work through that, right?
Yeah.
And then when you started thinking about what's important for you, then it sounds like you started putting yourself out there, exposing yourself to new experiences. कि चलो cycling try करते हैं, book club try करते हैं, ये musicians try करते हैं.
You also go through a phase when you're lost now. So you're hanging on.
तो हाँ आपके यार सब कुछ.
But try everything because something will resonate. Like for me, that entire spiritual trip that I signed up for worked for me. You know, a lot of people say कि वो मजहब से दूरी है तो depression हो जाती है. You know, a lot of celebrities have said that and they've come under controversial this thing. My take on that is कि, you know, it just kind of assists you in the biggest way possible. Again, it's a part of your, so I wouldn't say just religion, but connecting with something that
bigger.
gives your life more meaning than just what is around you. Yeah, something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
So whether it's you praying to the universe, you praying to Allah, you putting yourself on the mat, throwing out your needs to the world, reflecting, meditating. And I was loving my Fajr time. So I was waking up for Fajr. I used to make my coffee. I used to listen to a couple of verses of the Quran and begin my day. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of suits me a little more.
Peaceful.
Than coming home at 4 a.m., for instance, and, you know, feeling sick the next day. And I've had such terrible conversations. I've been around a lot of smoke and it sounded like, you know, but it really helped me. For me, it was like a game changer. So,
and was it because, do you think it was because you went through this transformation that you were able to then find the partner that you are now making your life partner?
I think so. 100%. Because then you also kind of, when you know yourself better, you know what you need and what you want better. Right? So I guess at some point I was making uninformed decisions about my life. कि शादी भी अभी करनी चाहिए, बच्चा भी अभी होना चाहिए. तो the reasons were all wrong. Like, वो टाइम निकल जाएगा, या उम्र निकल रही है, पाकिस्तान में रहती हो, मीडिया में हो, सिंगल हो, reputation, all the wrong reasons. And not the right reasons, like how is this person treating you? How is your communication with one another? Does he bring to the table what you would want? Do you give him what he would require from you? So when I got to know myself better, it was so much easier to spot the right person than when you're clouded and you're like, हाँ, you know, he's nice, but वो बस अब क्या करें, वो अगर कभी गालियाँ दे देता है तो क्या करें? It loses his tempo. जो excuses हम बनाते हैं in relationships. So I used to do that.
And how long, once you knew yourself, did it take for you to spot that person?
I think, Fazan, it's like, you know, you're on this journey. So you constantly keep rediscovering and knowing yourself and improving yourself. So that is like my journey, and it's independent of him, my parents, anybody.
Right.
And I'm loving this relationship that I have with myself now. Like, I love, love, love it. I've never respected myself more. I have never appreciated myself more. And so that is completely independent. I've become so okay with taking care of myself And like a lot of therapists say, you are your best friend, and time spent with yourself is time spent with God. As cliched as it sounds, but I think he respected my individuality to a point where I was really happy that, and I gave him that space as well. And the realization of that came early, but the journey is ongoing. So I could spot him in the sense, meaning, so it took me a good 3.5, 4 years to find my ground, because there were rona dhona in the middle. There were times like, what am I doing?
So this whole journey was 3 to 4 years long.
It was very painful. I
Wow.
mean, I don't know. I don't want to say this on camera. I'll tell you off camera maybe, but it was bad. It was.
We should say it. Maybe someone's inspired. Maybe someone's going through it right now,
Yeah. No, I mean, I was hospitalized because I couldn't breathe on days.
Wow.
So, I was in and out of the hospital. I used to throw up. I couldn't keep anything down my tummy. And as much as my parents were supportive, so it had triggered. What had happened was कि एक condition आप में होती है, बच्चों में भी होती है. And again, then therapy helps you understand कि it started with, say, sexual abuse as a child, which we all, not all, but 9 times out of 10, we've experienced it. But your mind kind of blocks out the trauma.
True.
But I had to go over and over and over again to understand, why was I always a nervous child? Why was my stomach always out? Before my O levels, A levels, my stomach was always bad. I would never be able to sleep. I used to throw up in the morning of my exams, even though I was a decent student. But this was all getting triggered from other things. And but now I see the sense in it. But it was horrible going through it. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Do you have the same reaction now?
No.
You don't. So the stomach churning like that.
No.
That fear, the nervousness.
Yeah, every time I used to go on stage, I mean, I would throw up backstage.
Really?
People know this.
But you're always on stage.
Before. I was always on stage. But I mean, it became better with practice. But I was a very, very underconfident individual. Like really underconfident.
And the surface doesn't show that.
No, it doesn't.
And that's what's crazy, right? You don't know what's happening behind the surface of most people. अंदर पता ही नहीं कि अंदर क्या हो रहा है.
Yeah. वो कहते हैं कि बात किया करो, but it's not easy to talk about it also. A, you don't want to make it about yourself. And B, I don't think you understand yourself कि क्या हो रहा है. You just label yourself a loser.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, why are you nervous? And I'd be like, I don't know. I wish I wasn't, I can't sleep. Oh my God, I'm going on stage. I'm going to mess up. Constantly negative. Self-talk. So now I've realized that your inner confidence really sets the tone for how other people perceive you all of a sudden.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's where you
how you perceive yourself is what other people then perceive of you.
Where you draw your boundaries for others will draw their boundaries. अगर आप अपने लिए boundary नहीं draw करेंगे तो लोग भी आपके साथ उसी तरीके से सलूक करेंगे.
But ये हम अपने बच्चों को नहीं सिखाते.
यही मैं पूछने वाला था, यही मेरा सवाल था कि
मैं बड़े आके अब 35 साल की उम्र में ये चीजें सीख रही हूँ और I'm like,
तो मैं यही पूछने वाला था कि how do you accelerate this so that you don't have to, or he or she or anyone doesn't have to discover this halfway through life यार. मतलब how can we create a society जहाँ पे at the age of 20, 21, 22 कॉलेज ख़त्म किया, अब आप बड़े हो रहे हैं, जॉब में आ रहे हैं, फैमिली का सोच रहे हैं. At this point you have discovered these things. Is there a way to accelerate this? ताकि mid-20s में ये चीज़ें समझ आ जाएं. क्योंकि अक्सर लोगों को कहते हैं ना कि मर्द को कहते हैं कि भाई 40 साल की उम्र को मर्द को फिर अकल आना शुरू होती है.
हाँ,
बाकी 40 पे क्यों आती है यार? Why can't we accelerate? पूरी दुनिया ने हर चीज़ accelerate कर दी है.
40 हम जवान हैं. हमें लगता है हम बुढ़े हो गए हैं, लेकिन हम 40 से बहुत जवान हैं. अभी तो हमने दुनिया
अभी तो शुरू किया है,
राइट? हमें हमेशा ये बताया जाता है 40 के बाद दुनिया खत्म है, इट्स डाउनहिल. बट I mean, I feel like
if you look back, let me rephrase it. What could have been done in your life for you to have reached where you are today 10 years ago or 15 years ago?
See, I'm not going to ever hold anything against my parents because I feel like they didn't have the tools either. Like they've seen wars and they've seen broken homes and they've seen a lot of things,
वो generational trauma क्या है?
Generational trauma भी आ रही है, उनके अपने traumas भी थे और उनको नहीं पता होता how to handle a child who's saying मुझे anxiety है या मुझे अपने कोई gender identity के issues हो रहे हैं, like what tools do you have to help your child?
नहीं.
Right? And all you do is कि बकवास मत करो, like shut your mouth. And you can't have these difficult conversations because you don't know how to have them. Like I remember until very recently that when even in educated homes, when a girl used to get her period, you couldn't discuss it with your brother or your father. So if your mother's traveling, I had a friend who used to call me and go like, "Yeah, do you have any stuff to just send over because I can't ask my dad." I was like, he's going to the market, just tell him. But we can't even, it's such a normal human condition again. If you look at it from a medical point of view, it's like the most basic thing that happens to a person's body. But obviously, तमीज़, respect, अब कोई लोग देख के बोलेंगे यार ये लोग अब इतना मुंह फाड़ के बात कर रहे हैं, ये चीज़ें बात करने की थोड़ी है, राइट?
लेकिन हम इंसान हैं, राइट? अगर हम एक दूसरे से कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर सकते कि मेरी ज़रूरियात क्या हैं, तो फिर यही बैरियर्स क्रिएट होंगी, ऊपर यही मसले क्रिएट होंगे.
तो मुझे लगता है कि रिस्पेक्ट
अलग है,
रिस्पेक्ट अलग है,
और मेरी रिक्वायरमेंट्स, जिस्मानी रिक्वायरमेंट्स अलग हैं.
जो कुछ कॉन्वर्सेशंस ऐसी हैं जो डिसरिस्पेक्टफुल नहीं है.
भाई अगर मेरा पेरेंट एक ही है और मुझे कुछ मांगना है उस पेरेंट से और मेरी कोई ज़रूरियात हैं, बेहतर यही नहीं है कि मैं अपने पेरेंट्स से मांगूं rather than go and ask some random person.
बिल्कुल. लेकिन कम्युनिकेशन, it's a very very thin line, man. I don't know, because obviously a lot of people are worried that अब हमारे बच्चे जो हैं इंटरनेट की वजह से
बर्बाद हो रहे हैं,
वो पाकिस्तानी हैं, वो मुसलमान हैं, वो बर्बाद हो गए हैं. क्या पहन रहे हैं, क्या कर रहे हैं, नाच के टिकटॉक्स बना रहे हैं.
अभी एक कहानी आई थी. Did you read the story 2 days ago in Karachi? It broke my heart. A family of 4 women were slaughtered by the son. The son killed the mother.
उसकी भी तो रिस्पेक्ट है सन की.
बाप घर आया, दरवाजा खोला, बिल्कुल इंटीरियर कराची में सदर के अंदर,
हो रही है हमारी
टिकटॉक के ऊपर. कहने लगे कि बच्चे घर की लड़कियां टिकटॉक वीडियोस बना रही हैं और हमारी माँ ने उनको इजाज़त दी हुई है. तो मैंने माँ को, बहन को, सिस्टर इन लॉ को और नीस को 12 साल की. Father opens the door, comes in and sees this and was मतलब यार, that's, can you imagine the mental condition of that man?
उसको कहाँ से ठीक करें, right? तो अब now that you're saying कि अगर मैं preempt, पहले तो अपने बच्चों को बताना कि whatever you're feeling, हमारे घर में हमेशा अपने माँ बाप से दोस्ती थी. And I'm sure कि माँ ने तो इजाज़त दी हुई थी, लेकिन यहाँ पे भाइयों का भी बहुत बड़ा से होता है. Realize this कि आए दिन भाई कत्ल कर देता है बहन की. Because बाप तो फिर भी सह लेता है, बट भाई के दोस्त, तुम्हारी बहन ऐसी, तुम्हारा वो, तो उसके साथ किसी के चक्कर चल गया, खानदान का नाम बर्बाद हो गया. हम तो बर्बाद हो गया. Now the only consolation is if you kill. That's how you'll uphold your honor. And can you just, sometimes I look at the children on the streets in Pakistan and I'm like, I keep talking about my mental health. I was like, इनका क्या trauma होगा?
इनका, और सोचो यार 40 साल बाद ये किधर होंगे?
So ऐसा होता है that they become, you can see कि क्या हालात हैं. जानवरों से लेकर इंसानों से लेकर सबके साथ तशद्दुद ही हो रहा है. Right? There is no sense of, you see children pelting stones on animals. In Lahore, I was in the car the other day, this guy was just beating a donkey. And for a second, I just stopped the car and I was like, क्या कर रहे हो भाई? But then I looked at him, he had 2 teeth missing, his hair looked like it hadn't been washed. I was like, इसकी अपनी जिंदगी में, this is normal. हाँ, ये तो निकाल रहा है अपनी भड़ास. How can I expect anything from him, right? And then I had a conversation with him and I was like, तुम्हें किस चीज़ की ज़रूरत है? मैं तुम्हें बाइक दिलवा दूँ कि इस जानवर को भी छोड़ दो, मतलब मारना छोड़ दो उसको इस तरीके से. But
so there is no solution, unfortunately. इसका
education 25-30 साल में पता चलेगा फिर. अभी तो there's no first hand solution, but for in our tabka, yes, there is a solution. That we stop being really modern on the surface and doing things like no, let's not talk about this, let's not talk about that. We do that. Even our own friends do that. Our own friends and children, like there's so many issues that we see around in our circles, and everything is just happening, but
we're not addressing it.
Pretending like they're fine. Our marriages are fine, our children are fine. Half of them are in rehab, which is not a bad thing, but it's something to be addressed. And half of them are like, Look at me. I'm like, half of their husbands are cheating. But whatever, on the surface, we all going out for dinner in the evenings.
Yeah.
So हर society के अपने
मसले मसाइल होते हैं.
हाँ, और गंदे होते हैं और जो हम छुपाते हैं. और छुपाना चाहिए कहते हैं, लेकिन आप मुझे मत बताएं. लेकिन see a doctor, अपने बच्चों को तो सिखा दें.
Own your issue, address it, take the time away. मतलब one thing I liked about what you said is you separated yourself from the situation. मतलब चाहे इस्लामाबाद हो चाहे बाहर हो, मतलब अपने आप को उस situation से बाहर निकाल के, क्योंकि जब आप बाहर निकालते हैं फिर आप स्लो हो जाते हैं, आपके ट्रिगर्स सारे ख़त्म हो जाते हैं. उसने बुला लिया, उसकी दावत है तो मुझे जाना ज़रूरी है, फिर वो नहीं गया तो उस तीसरे वाले ने फ़ोन कर दिया, पेरेंट्स क्या कहेंगे अगर मैं ख़ानदान के डिनर पे नहीं गया. अपने आप के लिए टाइम निकालें, स्लो करें. स्लो करने के बाद फिर जो रियलाइजेशन है कि व्हाट इज़ इट दैट आई रियली रियली वांट. और अगर आपने थेरेपी की हुई है या कोई हेल्प लिया हुआ है तो आपके पास टूल्स मौजूद हैं कि यार अच्छा चलो ठीक है, मेरे पास ये टूल्स हैं. और फिर सबसे पहले तो अपनी बाउंड्री क्रिएट करें कि यार दिस इज़ अ नो गो एरिया फॉर मी. मैं रात में 10 बजे सोऊंगा और फजर पे उठूंगा, खत्म. दैट्स माय बाउंड्री. अब कर लो जो करना है.
बिल्कुल.
मैं खाने
मुझे ताने पड़े हुए हैं.
आई एम श्योर
तुम तो 11 बजे सोने चली जाती हो. You make it difficult for everybody. You want to have dinner at 7:30. I was like, okay, yaar, man.
You make it difficult for me to have dinner at 10. मतलब.
No, and some of them I started realizing because I was like, man, like, come on, it's a weekday and you're like, let's hang out at 10:30.
Yeah.
तो कैसे करेंगे?
And you need to change the people. And I think जो सबसे मुश्किल चीज़ होती है.
They're functioning too, but I think they're passive depressives.
But for functioning जो होता है ना,
functioning depressive.
मतलब that does not mean actively living. Actively living and functioning are two different things.
That's also true.
ठीक
You
है?
should be an NLP coach. But you should, right? Like I sometimes thought that I should do this, and then I'm like, oh, but there are 2,000 of them, so they'll be like, अच्छा ये भी है.
Yeah.
So उस चक्कर में मैंने किया ही नहीं.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
Everybody feels like they have something to give back.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And how can we undermine that from somebody who feels like I want to help people? You're like, अब भी कर ले, क्या
ठीक है, बस ड्राइंग रूम में बैठ के हेल्प कर लेना, बट कोचिंग की क्या, why make money off of it? That's the thing, right? Help people, but why make money off of it? Now let me ask you one last thing, just to lift
time निकल गया, गुजर गया.
Lift the mood.
Look at that.
Your career has always been about hosting, conducting, facilitating, bringing people together and all of that, right? But you never went full-blown blogger, like Instagram celebrity, influencer type. You use that as a medium to communicate, I feel, from what I've observed. Why did you not go like full hardcore Insta blogger celebrity, like that's my thing, even though that's what you're really good at? You've held on to this really, you're one of the only, I would say, top and only people think of who can really run and conduct shows.
Yeah.
You're really good at that.
That's true.
And that is what you're known for, and that's your one.
Yeah.
Why not become that on social media? You didn't take social media on like that.
I didn't.
Why? What was the reason? I just want to understand.
Only two things I feel like doing, and I guess I've never been obsessed with doing that. So I've never been a very ambitious person, unfortunately. कि मैं सबसे ज़्यादा सोशल मीडिया पे मेरे फॉलोअर्स होना चाहिए, या मैं सबसे बेहतरीन एक्टर बनूंगी, या मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा like I think I've gone on to that trajectory where I'm just living and enjoying myself rather than worrying about where my social media is going. Sometimes I have those moments where I'm looking at Dino and and I sit down with him and I'm like, यार दुनिया में कितना कुछ कर सकते थे हम, कितना टैलेंट है, but look at us going for dinner.
जो आप दोनों की जो डब सिंकिंग, लिप सिंकिंग वीडियोस हैं, वो तो अभी भी बहुत टैलेंट नजर आता है उसमें.
टैलेंट है, और वो 6 मिनट में रिकॉर्ड होती हैं, because I think both of us are like scatterbrains. So we're like, but I have a bunch of things that I want to do.
Right.
It's always on my list. But then in the evenings, I want to sit down and have a burger and watch some Netflix instead of going to another meeting, So
it's almost like you didn't worry about the life that carries, and let's say, you didn't care as much about the optics of that. You just wanted to do what you wanted to do.
True. And I've been comfortable. So it's not like, I was really desperate to earn that money or get that success. So I became a little comfortable in my space.
Yeah.
I became very like, I mean, I keep thinking that I need to do this. I launched a Instagram page for mental health as well, and I was like, I'm going to post on this every day, to try and help people. Reh gaya. Then I was like, oh, I'm going to work on an animal shelter. Kabhi nahi hua. Then I was like, I'm going to do my doodles because I do a lot of art, and I was like, I'm going to finally have an exhibition. Hone wala hai. Pata nahi kab hoga. So meanwhile, I'm traveling. So that's consistently happening. So that's one thing that I do.
So you should open a travel blog, travel Instagram, travel everything.
I think my Instagram is a representation of me. So it's thoda sa mental health, thoda sa travel, thoda sa animal rights, thoda sa shoots or calm. And it's worked in my favor. It's a wholesome account, I'd say. And come followers in comparison to maybe film stars, and
they're real people.
Genuine hai.
They're real people.
They interact with me on a very, very regular basis, and they're kind of really. So I feel like theek hai.
I always recommend you to brands. I was like, authentic brands. Authentic brands. Yeah. I was like, if you want to reach real people, she's the person you go through because they're actually real people at the back end. And the last thing is that if someone genuinely wants to, because you don't see a lot of people wanting to get into the space of sort of conducting and emceeing, and there aren't, I think it's an open space.
There aren't. Because somebody was like, are you going to move now that you're married? And I was like, no. They're like, but who's going to host those events that we have lined up for next year?
Yeah. So there's not that many people left.
Yeah, क्योंकि अंग्रेजी बोलना और उर्दू दोनों बोलना वो
और audiences से connect करना like और audience में हर तरह के लोग बैठे हुए हैं तो how does someone get into this space अगर आज कोई शुरू कर रहा है college grad है या जो भी है मतलब mid-20s में how do they become you in the next 5 years?
Start small. If you can get into if you can get into a red carpet event, if you can get into a radio station once a week and do a show, if you have your social media space and you're already good at speaking, so many people have their podcasts now. So I guess getting into that in that sense, it's difficult because people have gotten into acting more easily than into hosting.
Correct.
And masla hi pad gaya ki we've got so much experience behind us now. So even when you get in, they're like, yaar, acha to tha, lekin wo jo Anoushey Faizan aur wo jo Dino karte na, wo to nahi tha. So like, kaise hoga? They're 20 years behind us, bichare.
क्योंकि there's no one right behind you.
बीच में भी नहीं है.
बीच में कोई नहीं है.
बीच में भी कोई नहीं और एक आध थे खालिद मलिक और वो सोफी वो चले गए हैं. They've all gone left Pakistan. So इसलिए तो हम यहाँ बैठे हैं कि हमारे करोड़ों बंदा काश
जब डीनो फैजान और अनुशे चले जाएंगे तो फिर पाकिस्तान में
फैजान जा रहे हैं. Faizaan's leaving.
अच्छा, he's leaving.
Faizaan's going off to Dubai.
तो पाकिस्तान में शो होस्ट करने के लिए फैसिलिटेट करने के लिए कोई नहीं रहेगा.
नहीं, जो आपके डिप्लोमेट्स आएंगे उनसे अंग्रेजी में कौन बात करेगा फैजान साहब? Who's going to be speaking English in my pants?
Southern पंजाब से किसी को ले आएंगे.
Conversion plan karane. I can only just imagine, it's difficult, but I don't know. There should be people who should get out there, and there should be brands who should hire people also. They should take a chance on people. I did recommend a few people when I was traveling, but one of them said कि यार वो उनके इतने नखरे थे, आप लोगों के नखरे नहीं होते, आप तो बहुत पेशेंट हैं, आपको स्क्रिप्ट दे तो आप लोग संभाल लेते हैं, वो थोड़े से वो हो जाते हैं, कभी गेस्ट आगे पीछे हो जाते हैं, कभी अनाउंसमेंट्स उल्टी सीधी हो जाती हैं, just take care of everything. I don't know. All I think is that practice makes perfect, so get into it.
That's
and stay consistent.
Take the first gig.
Because again, I've told you, I used to throw up before getting on stage. But हो गया अब तो.
True.
Yeah.
Anoushey, awesome. I loved the chat. I'm so glad we did this. I know we were trying to do this for a while. No, you spoke exactly the right amount.
You
said exactly the things that I wanted to hear you say. And it was amazing. I think you spoke from the heart, and it really matters. I think people need to hear these stories more because सब लोग जो है ना एक फसाड लेके घूम रहे होते हैं और दूसरों को ऐसा लगता है कि यार हर चीज़ इनकी ज़िंदगी में बहुत अच्छी है. लेकिन पीछे कुछ और हो रहा होता है और अक्सर वो जो पीछे हो रहा होता है बंद खिड़कियों के पीछे कोई उसके बारे में बात नहीं करता है.
किसी की जिंदगी इतनी खास नहीं है आजकल.
मतलब सबकी जिंदगियां मुश्किल है.
होगी तो आपको उसके बारे में पता भी नहीं होगा.
तो
सोशल मीडिया पर तो नहीं
बिल्कुल सोशल मीडिया पे सबकी जिंदगी अच्छी है. तो अगर हम
उसमें सबकी जिंदगी अच्छी है,
अगर हम दूसरों से सीख सकते हैं, अगर इस तरह के मैसेजेस पहुंचा सकते हैं, I think that's what's important.
It's totally going off topic. Had some friends go to Nathia Gali, put up these amazing pictures. So I was like, wow, कितना मजा आएगा. नहीं रास्ते बंद थे, सिग्नल नहीं था, वहाँ पे वो अटैक हो गया था सवात में. I was like, अल्लाह तस्वीरों से लग रहा था कि you guys. I was like, can you imagine the reality of the situation? I was like, why you guys are posing near alpine tree? They're like, we were so stressed. So that is the social media reality,
That
right?
is true.
So
That
there
is
you
true.
go.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Good
you
luck
for
with your
having me.
fitting. Good luck with the
Yes.
upcoming wedding. Good luck with
Yes.
everything.
Thank you.
Don't stray too far from Pakistan. Stay close by.
Don't want to.
We need people like you around.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you. And thank you for staying tuned to Digitales. Please like, subscribe, comment करें. आपके comment से हम guests बुलाते हैं. Keep them coming. Bye-bye.